What's up, nerds, and welcome to another installment of the Summer 2025 Reading Review List. On the docket this time is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. It was originally published in 2020, and it's the first book in a series of so far 7 books, but Dinniman has said that he expects there to be around 10, give or take, depending on how the story goes. Really brief synopsis. And I mean really brief because this is honestly it's kind of hard to summarize this book without giving too much away. But essentially, an unknown alien force crushes the surface of the Earth. Buildings, cars, boxes, anything that has a roof on them, and anyone that was inside dies. Anyone that was outside, such as Carl, is able to survive. Carl was outside by a stroke of luck, along with his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. The survivors are given the option of they can either enter this underground dungeon that has been built underneath the surface of the Earth and try to go through 18 levels of this dungeon to reach the end, or they can try to survive on the surface. So Carl decides to enter the dungeon, and then you go along with him and Princess Donut as they battle various enemies and overcome puzzles and different obstacles throughout the story. This is kind of a hard book to describe the way that I want to. So it's obviously it takes a lot of bases from dungeon crawlers, both video games, but then also tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons. There's a loot box system. Carl's and Princess Donut are able to increase like their level and their powers. So there's a lot of gamesmanship that's built into here. Something that's really interesting about this is that Dinniman has built in the gamesmanship from video games of loot boxes that keep you playing a game, and they also keep you reading this book. But it's not done in like a subversive way. It's not full of cliffhangers, but for instance, whenever Carl or Donut, when they defeat a boss or they solve a puzzle, they're often given experience points and often loot boxes that contain loot for them to use throughout the different levels of the dungeon. And the chapters are usually fairly short, and they come in rapid fire succession. There's not really a stopping point to the action. And when they're given these experience points or these loot boxes, to find out what they are, you, the reader, have to read the next chapter. So it entices you to keep going and continue to read along. It's really, honestly, pretty ingenious. And even if you really notice it, you don't really mind it because, again, like I said, it's not done in this kind of like, malicious type way. It's just done as a device to keep you reading the story. And it's a fabulous story. It's funny. There's lots of action. It's sometimes even kind of poignant at times. So it's not just a heap of fluff. There's some real substance there. All the humor that's in the story, it's woven in very naturally. None of it ever feels forced. Dinniman does a great job of weaving these different elements throughout it. So it feels very natural to the world that he's building. There's also this under element of a kind of background, seedier, sinister storyline that's developing in the background that I assume will continue to be extrapolated as the books go forward. So if you just want a fluffy light read, you could have that. But there's, like I said, there's a deeper element there that's really interesting that makes me want to continue to read the book. So it's not just cliffhangers that keep you going forward. It's also really well written and a very interesting story that's within there. Basically what I'm saying is that I plan to read more of the books in the series, and I've been very pleased with what I get so far. And I definitely think if you're looking for something fun to read and you like video games, especially if you like, old school like Diablo and even roguelike games like Hades and whatnot, and Dungeons and Dragons, obviously, for tabletop, you'll really like this book because it uses so many elements from there that will be familiar to you. And even if you don't like those things, this is just a good book. I think anyone would read it and they would pretty much enjoy it. And that's why I'm going to give Dungeon Crawler Carl 4 bookworms out of 5.